During a special hearing on the controversial tree felling in Mumbai's Aarey Colony, the Supreme Court ordered no more trees be cut till the next hearing on the issue.
The deed is done. The government says it's cut all the trees that were needed to clear over 30 acres on the Aarey land for a Mumbai metro parking area. After 3 days of protests, arrests and intense campaign, which saw even the Shiv Sena join in, this morning 2 Supreme Court judges came in specially to hear the case during the court's Dussehra vacation. But in the interim order, both petitioners and government appear to have got what they wanted.
MMRCL has said that out of 2,185 trees, they have already cut 2,141 trees, which means in just 2 days, MMRCL has cut around 98% of the target trees.
In fact, the government says it can go ahead with construction.
There is no status quo with regard to construction activity. I must make it clear that the status quo is with regard to cutting of trees only. So clearance of that area, some further construction activity, that can definitely go on. I can't say exact number of trees, but the area required was 33 hectares.
And has that been
That has been cleared now. All the trees which were standing there, they have been cut. So no further cutting of trees is required.
We are thankful to the Supreme Court. Honorable Justice Arun Mishra and Ashok Bhushan has said that there would no be clearing of the Aarey area. There will no be clearing, axing of the trees, and status quo has to be maintained. Larger implications, not only clearing of trees, but the amount of tree which is axed, that cannot be removed by the government also. The government has to give a report on what number of trees has been axed. So that area, the whole area which is disputed now, is put on hold.
But in Mumbai, some activists are now looking beyond just this metro car shed construction.
The metro shed was just like Nitika said, the beginning. There's a lot more left, there's a lot more to be conserved, there's a lot more to be protected, and we want the government to come up with a plan to protect this instead of proposing more projects for Aarey.
The government claimed in court that it was doing its bit for environment and had planted over 20,000 saplings 2 years ago. But Justice Arun Mishra countered it by saying that simply planting them was not a solution. What mattered was whether they bloomed or not. The next hearing will take place on 21st October when an environment bench will look into whether the Aarey land is in an eco-sensitive zone and whether the felling of trees was legal or illegal. With camera person Manoj Thakur and Purva Chitnis in Mumbai, this is Sukirti Dwivedi in New Delhi for NDTV.
So the big question after today's Supreme Court ruling, what exactly has been achieved? Yes, no more trees will be cut. But as Sukirti was reporting over there, 98% of the trees that needed to be cut by the municipality have already been cut. And there doesn't appear to be any stay whatsoever as far as construction of that shed is concerned. Joining us now, Mirza, the actor, producer, here as a UN Environment Goodwill Ambassador and somebody who feels very close to this cause. Dia, thanks very much for being with us. More than 2,400 trees have already been cut. Authorities say no more trees need to be cut. So any relief being given to the petitioners now, some would say, is essentially hollow. Do you believe that that's the case, that nothing really has been achieved?
No, it hasn't. I guess the relief is that at least we've been heard. And this is going to be a matter that is going to come up again on the 21st of October. Vishnu, it's heartbreaking to bear witness to the fact that fully grown trees, hundreds of years old, have been massacred overnight, literally. And what's even more disheartening is the complete lack of participation, engagement on the part of government with civil society, people, right. Young children, student activists, and hundreds of people who've, collectively right. been campaigning to stop this massacre of these trees.
Yeah, but so what is your message in a scenario like this where governments decide to push ahead with cutting down of trees like this? They have been relentless in doing this. They have not decided to accept anything the protesters say. They believe they are on strong legal basis. On legal grounds, they've got a Bombay High Court order which backs them, evidently a Supreme Court order also, which doesn't necessarily go against what they've said. If governments push through in this manner, what is your message as a UN ambassador to governments which insist on cutting down trees?
Vishnu, I am very encouraged by the fact that the Aarey movement has seen unprecedented people's support. I think it's been one of the most powerful campaigns, campaigns led by civilians and civil society. I think what it's done is that it's educated so many people about the strengths and merits of a full-grown ecosystem that a tree provides, the importance of protecting fully grown trees, the fact that planting saplings in the place of trees does not is no substitute. It just cannot be equated. It's not the same thing. I think more people now than ever before understand that in India you have 28 trees to a person, which is a very, very poor ratio of trees. And other countries have thousands of trees per person. You know, in the face of climate change, there are many harsh realities that we have been confronted by in the recent past. There has been unprecedented flooding. We have to become sensitive and aware that our actions are going to have consequences, and our past actions have had terrible consequences, and we do not stand a chance in the face of climate change if we continue to act the way we are. I think the most important thing that people need to recognize, especially governments need to recognize, is that environmentalism is not obstructionism. It is pro-people, it's pro-human rights. It's so essential to engage with people. There have been so many experts who've come together who have given and invested so much time to this campaign and this movement, and encourage the government to acknowledge and see the options that are available at hand, to engage with them. But it's really tragic the way this has gone down.
The petition in the Supreme Court says that the students tried for a Chipko movement. Instead, they were lathi charged by the police. Isn't this one of the saddest parts of all of this? Yes, of course, the destruction of trees, a lot of people would say unwarranted, particularly since we are trying to change as a society. But then if you've got children, students, lawyers, activists pushed around by the police, put behind bars, apparently abused, isn't that also a really sad thing, that this is what happens to people trying to protect the environment?
Of course it does. I mean, I have so many people I know personally who were detained for many hours, young girls who I got calls from and messages from, and I was traveling at the time, so I couldn't go myself, but I did my best to tell them to stay calm and just wait it out, because the police was acting on orders. They were doing their job, so it really wasn't their fault. I would not like to hold the police accountable for this. I think it's important to hold the government accountable for the fact that young students and activists, children, women were detained.
But there's also another way, Dia, of looking at this, that the fact is that this was not declared an ecologically sensitive zone, which is why earlier on, when it went to the Bombay High Court, they said that, look, this is a case which is being heard in the Supreme Court, not this particular case, but a case similar to this is being heard in the Supreme Court. And therefore, they felt that on the grounds of jurisdiction, the High Court had earlier said that they don't have that ground for jurisdiction. It went to the Supreme Court. Ultimately, we know what the Supreme Court said. So what about that argument that this has not been ruled as an ecologically sensitive zone, and in the absence of that, there's nothing that could have actually stopped the demolition of these trees, the destruction of these trees?
So ideally, the government should have waited for that matter to be cleared in court first. It's been pending since 2018. The point is that I go back to something I mentioned earlier, Vishnu, that there are options available. Cuff Parade was one option. There were other options that experts highlighted. And the other fact of the matter is that I don't understand the counter argument to how people find it acceptable to destroy 2,700 trees, fully grown trees that have invaluable advantage to all of us living in the city. And you can't talk about the metro, which is a very important a system that is going to, of course, bring a lot of benefit to the city, but you can't equate what that is going to do in context to the loss of these trees. It's a very bizarre counter to the debate. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Okay. Now, here's another aspect of this story which perhaps we need to reflect on as well. The car shed being built is on the banks of the Mithi river, and the worry is that the destruction of trees can result in flooding. So it's not just a question of trees being cut in a place which perhaps you argue that they shouldn't be cut, but that the destruction of these trees has a potential disastrous impact in terms of flooding in that area.
Of course, and it has. Mumbai has flooded.
Right.
Flooded. It's because they've filled it with silt and concrete, so it has already caused flooding. How do I explain this, Vishnu? It is unfathomable. It is unimaginable why we insist on ignoring reports like the IPBS or there are just so many scientific reports available to us. There is just so much science and data accessible to the government that they should be using, but most importantly, coordinating with each other and communicating and making sure that they protect the existing ecosystem and environmental infrastructure that supports life.
Okay. Well,
and I very consciously use the word infrastructure for environment because these are ecological systems or infrastructures that have supported so much life.
Yep.
And have done it for hundreds of years, and in the name of urbanization we're destroying this infrastructure.
Well, Dia, look, you've been a real spokesperson for this cause, and I'd like to thank you for joining us, sharing your thoughts. We are also going to extend this now in the form of a debate. Niranjan Shetty, spokesperson of the BJP in Mumbai, joins us. Rishabh Ranjan and Vaibhav Shahi, two law students who were part of the petition in the Supreme Court today, with me in the studio. Priyanka Chaturvedi is the spokesperson of the Shiv Sena, with me as well. Nitika Agarwal is a part of the Save Aarey movement. She's an activist. And Dr. Sumant Raman is an analyst who believes that what the Maharashtra government or the municipality is doing is correct. So we've tried to get as many sides of this debate as possible. Niranjan Shetty, let me come to you first, sir. If you knew that this case was coming up in the Supreme Court, that there was a legal process which had been started, then why the rush in going and chopping down these trees? Because it made today's developments in court essentially useless. 98% of the trees you've already cut. Why did you not wait till you heard what the Supreme Court had to say?
I think, Mr. Vishnu, probably you may not be aware, you may not be aware of the process of the permission that has been granted in the Mumbai Municipal Corporation. And I think the government of the day has completed all the process, and thereafter it waited for the 15 days period, and thereafter they have gone ahead with this kind of cutting of the trees. Having said that, I think probably I do not know basically the petitioners, as you rightly know, initially when they had gone to the Supreme Court as well as in the High Court, the petition was turned down. Now it may be just for the Dia Mirza and all others who were there just now discussing, I would like to bring that on notice that this part of this Aarey is not totally a jungle. It was just inaugurated in the year of 1951 by Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru for the grazing purpose. It was never a jungle as such, and that is why whenever the question came of eco zone, and that is why it was rejected. That is what they need to understand. The honorable, all these learned persons, those who have gone to the court, they need to understand that.
Okay. Nitika Agarwal, this wasn't a forest, is the point that the BJP spokesperson, Mr. Shetty, mentions over there, and that all permissions were granted. You've got your facts wrong, is what he is saying.
No, that's not true, Vishnu. I would like to dispute that, because the fact of the matter is that we do have an NGT hearing which is coming up on the 10th. We do have a case which is pending in the Supreme Court as we speak, and so it's not that this thing is not a forest. And as the Supreme Court even today said, when in the petition they said that all unclassified forests are forests as well. So it is not, and even in the case of the due process being followed, if you are so much clearly on the right ground with the right kind of permissions, why the need to cut a tree in the middle of the night? Why manhandle people? Why would you not allow that? So I do not agree with Mr. Niranjan Shetty at all in saying that we've got a fact correct. And in fact, this whole matter, unfortunately, of Aarey being there, because now, other than the 165 hectares, the rest of the place in Aarey has already been specified under the EAZ, under the new DP. And our petition has been that, this whole part should also be included.
Okay, one sec. I want to go back to Mr. Shetty for a moment. Mr. Shetty, the argument which has been made, and this is in the Supreme Court petition, is that what the order of the Supreme Court actually says, that the identity or the nature of this land has to be clearly established, that the petitioners need to do this as well. But the Supreme Court order doesn't seem to back your argument 100% to say that this is not forest land. Let me read from the order. It says, identity of the area is to be established by the petitioners, though it was orally stated that the area in question fell in the unclassed forest. Right? This is not a verdict or an order saying either way that this is a forest or an unclassed forest. That has not been proven. And so this comes up at a later stage, sir.
I think, Mr. Vishnu, since it is sub judice, shall we leave it up to when it comes before the court and later on discuss all this?
I don't think we are
Basically,
in breach of, I don't think, sir, we are in breach of or disagreeing with the court. I am reading out from a statement of the court.
I personally feel that it would be a breach of that, because initially, now since it is sub judice and the government pleader would put up all those things, and I am saying on the channel it would have some kind of impact.
No, we are trying to.
I belong to the political party.
No, I understand that, Mr. Shetty. I respect that, but
so
I'm just trying to.
I personally feel that it is.
Oh, I don't believe that this would be a sub judice case. I'm just trying to understand, because this is the basis of it, and Mr. Shetty would agree with me. Is this forest land or is it not forest land? Right. That this is the basis of the argument.
Let us leave it to the. Let us leave it to the. All the lawyers, those who will argue in front of the Supreme Court.
All right. Priyanka Chaturvedi, the BJP says that, look, you need to leave this for the court. The matter is sub judice. But I think the central point over here is that, is this forest land or is it not forest land? In your understanding of this issue, where do you see it? Mr. Shetty says that, look, it was in the early 50s that this area was actually notified and it was not a forest land per se.
No, firstly, I think there are some half-truths in that argument. The first argument that he made was that the BMC has given them permission to chop down these trees. That's actually half-truth. Tree Authority, which comes under the BMC, has several political party representatives who are asked to vote for whether it was to cut down those trees or to continue to maintain those trees. Except for Shiv Sena, every political party, from the BJP to the NCP and the Congress walking out, voted in favor of cutting down these trees. Shiv Sena moved this entire voting process to the High Court. We challenged it in the High Court, which High Court ended up dismissing recently, and we saw how a midnight massacre of trees was carried out, and I call it a conspiracy, which Uddhavji has also clarified that when we come back to power, we are going to ensure that those criminals behind this conspiracy are going to be punished.
But what is the conspiracy, Priyanka?
Secondly, about the forest and non-forest argument. This Yes, yes. The conspiracy being that High Court, dismisses the petition, and that very night, without giving the experts a chance, the activists a chance, for Shiv Sena a chance to take it to the Supreme Court and appeal in front of the Supreme Court, they started chopping down these trees. And I must also remind Mr. Shetty that the promise that MMRCL made was they would transplant some of those trees. That also hasn't happened. They have been brutally chopped down till the time Supreme Court asked them to stop whatever it is, and they should maintain the status quo till the 21st. Secondly, I'd like to mention here this entire land use change that has happened. We because it is a category A infrastructure project, MMRCL was directly coordinating with the Central Environment Ministry. They prepared the environment impact report and submitted it there, and that is how the land use changed. As per the Supreme Court today, they have categorically said even the extended forest should be considered as forest. And again, this is not about just the 2,700 trees. It is the entire ecosystem which stands to be
that's the larger
destroyed,
issue, and
at the altar of so-called
Priyanka, I wanted to get into the legal arguments. You've raised those points. The larger issue I will refer to in a moment from now. Dr. Sumant Raman, I think one of the key points over here is this, that the government has decided, the municipality has decided that work will continue, that shed will come up. Is this again, I mean, it seems to be a repeat what happened over here, that before you found out what happened in the Supreme Court, you went and cut all the trees. Now, before you find out what will happen in the Supreme Court, which is going to hear this again, you're going to potentially go and start construction of a shed. Because the order doesn't say so, but if there are honest, educated people who have an objection to this, environmentalists, students and others, why don't you wait? Why don't you wait for the Supreme Court to rule?
Now, let's look at this in complete perspective, Vishnu. 2,700 trees being chopped down in any part of the country is a tragedy. Nobody would voluntarily want to do something as environmentally harmful as that. But you have to look at this in the overall perspective. Look, 200,000 trees, that's right, 2 lakh trees are being cut down in the same Maharashtra for the Mumbai-Nagpur expressway. 30,000 trees are being cut down for the Mumbai-Goa highway expansion.
But that's been
32,000 trees are being cut down for the bullet train project.
No, or debated as this is.
One
the status
second.
of the land.
One second.
Those are not right.
No, it is not. Vishnu, the point is not about the status of the land, or that may be the legal point on
but
this.
That's what this
the
is.
The point is the volume of carbon. One second. The carbon sequestration capacity and therefore the environment friendliness of these trees is going to be pretty similar across the board, subject to certain varieties and so on. But otherwise, it's broadly in sync. Now, the point I'm trying to make is, you have the government's duty is to look towards the larger good. Is this an acceptable risk that has to be taken? Is this going to be so environmentally unfriendly that what comes up in its place is further going to pollute the environment? In this case, no. In the order of the court itself,
they have a couple of petitioners.
They have mentioned
but Mr.
that,
Raman,
that 2 lakh tons.
But Dr. Raman, I must disagree with your one argument that look, if we've cut 30,000 trees elsewhere, what is the harm of cutting 2,000 trees elsewhere? I mean, we need to look at it in perspective.
I'm not saying that at all.
No, but that's exactly what you're saying. You're saying 30,000 trees have been cut elsewhere, and we are not necessarily talking about that. Why are we talking about 2,000 trees over there? It's a false equivalence, sir.
No, that's not the point.
It is an utterly false equivalence.
The point is, I did not see. That's not a false equivalence.
Every case is different.
If you feel that this is happening because it's in Mumbai, and because it's very visible, it's in the public eye.
Right.
If this happened in rural India, that's
a generalization. To say that people in rural India are not concerned, or parts of our country, there are several examples of how the foremost preservers of our forest rights are people who have nothing to do with our cities. I can give you 3 examples off the top of my head.
Have 200,000 trees been chopped down or not? You answer my question, Vishnu.
I'm sure they have, but again you're drawing an equivalence.
Mumbai-Nagpur highway.
That has been cleared. by
No, no, are
several
you saying that's
organizations and
okay?
several bodies.
No, no,
This is disputed, whether it is
No, no.
cleared or
Are
not
you
over
saying
here.
that's
That's the
okay?
fight. But one moment, sir.
No, no,
Dr.
the
Raman,
issue is not about
let
the
let me
land
not argue with
classification.
you.
So are you saying
let
if
me
it's
just
not
bring in two of
forest
the
land, it's
petitioners.
okay?
Let me bring in two of the petitioners. Let me come to you first. He has a point when he says that why are we not arguing about larger issues? There are lakhs of trees which have been cut for development elsewhere. Why are we talking only about this? Because it's caught our eye. That's one of his arguments. How would you reply to that?
See, when we are talking about the larger issue, this issue specifically deals with a different kind of ecological significance. Every geographical location has an ecological significance. This has a different relevance being related to the Methi river bank, and thus can lead to mass destruction. Nature will not get into technicalities, whether this is a forest or not, whether this is a sensitive zone or not. Nature will not ask, Methi river will not ask whether this is technically a forest or not. This mass destruction will happen if we ignore this. Nature will not get into technicality, nor shall we do too. And just wanted to clarify on the two issues, Vishnu sir. First, that permission that Shetty ji is talking about, that got legitimacy after its legitimacy after Bombay High Court's order on 4th.
Yes.
So it didn't get legitimacy before because it was challenged. So the 15 days tenure which he is talking about, that he had the permission, he acts that's very critical, and that has to be examined by the Supreme Court. And the last contention, Your Lordship, that Vishnu sir,
Your Lordship.
Vishnu sir, that Priyanka said that
Yes.
they will punish them when she comes in power, when Uddhav Thackeray comes in power. Comes in power with whom? With the same people who are destructing the environment? She must answer this.
Priyanka, you want to answer that your arguments today are from a political standpoint, who you come to power next might actually is endorsing, the BJP is endorsing what is happening in Aarey. So therefore, you're arguing
actually,
against them today, tomorrow you'll be with them.
No. Yeah. No, absolutely. I just want to mention to the person who asked me this question, for past 3 years, it's not something that we've started to raise as of today. For past 3 years, whether it was in the Tree Authority meeting where the voting happened, whether it was of rejection of the DP 2034 plan that was drawn up by the state government and again passed bypassing every norm, the DP was cleared, whether it was even in the improvement committee rejecting this entire argument of DP 2034 where they changed the land use, and also raising it in the assembly and the parliament and protesting on the streets. Just like many of the students were detained, activists were detained, so were we. Lots of Shiv Sena corporators, including me, who was out there at the protest site, were detained for absolutely nothing at all, just being there showing solidarity with the people who were out there protesting against the way the trees were butchered. So while being in government, there's a lot you can do and ensure that checks and balances are maintained. And we will continue to raise our voices. We don't come as a package deal that if they are doing something wrong, we are going to be willing supporters in that. We are going to raise our voice. We have common issues that we agree upon.
Okay, fair enough.
But there are certain issues that
I need to start wrapping this.
Can I come in?
Okay, Mr. Shetty, yes.
Can I come in?
Mr.
Vishnu?
Shetty, quickly, yes.
I just wanted to remind Priyanka, probably she may not be aware, but I was part of the Tree Authority for almost 10 consecutive years. And you know what, she doesn't know that her own representative who's contesting, who's a legislator from the same Aarey location, has signed numerous sanctions of the trees for cutting. Either it is of Methi Nadi, next to Methi Nadi, or for the metros in the past, right up to the DN Nagar, or for the freeways. So I think you need to check.
Okay. Last question to you, Vaibhav. What are you going to do next?
I'm sorry, sir, we're discussing the Aarey forest specifically.
No, but I think he's accusing your party of double standards.
The trees are trees.
He's accusing your party of double
whether
standards.
it is on the land,
No,
it is
no,
whether
how
on
can
the
it be
land
double
or it is
standards?
in
No,
the
no,
Aarey.
1 second. Mr. Shetty.
Priyanka,
Mr.
you need to
Shetty,
understand. I think whether it
Mr.
is on the
Shetty,
land
just allow
or
me
it
to
is on the
complete.
Aarey.
You
And that is
mentioned
what.
that- I mean,
and
those
you
who
need to understand for what
Sir,
is the
sir,
purpose. It is
Sir,
it is
allow
the
me to
fight
complete.
between the
Allow me to
common man and the rich.
complete. Allow me to complete.
It is
Allow me
yeah,
to
I'll
complete.
complete. Let me complete and then you can complete.
Allow me to complete.
Let me
Priyanka, one
complete
second.
and then
Priyanka,
I'll allow you to say.
Priyanka, I'll
I
come
am
to you
only
next.
saying,
Okay.
Vishnu, I am only trying to say the present fight is between a common man, almost who has been not able to get this, he's been languishing for almost 30 years down the lane for a proper transportation, and here is the government which is trying to give the proper transportation, where without, succumbing to the life, you almost 10
Okay, Mr.
lives are
Shetty, one
succumbed in
second.
the
I
train.
need to start wrapping this. Priyanka, quickly your point in 30 seconds before Vaibhav. Yes, Priyanka.
No, my point is very simple. You're not giving transportation to them. You are giving them a car shed. Please, there's a difference. And the second difference is, you must go and speak to the tribal people who live in that area, and they will tell you exactly their concerns, which you seem to be ignoring. And thirdly, anyone who knows the geography of Mumbai would be able to tell you that DN Nagar and Aarey forests are far apart. One is in the west, one is in the east. So that is a policy of your argument. So I would just request you that when we come to argue on this particular issue, we are specifically talking about that parcel of land which is a forest that is coexisting in a mega city like Mumbai, where wildlife exists and coexists with human life.
Okay.
Let's not
Vaibhav, last
destroy
word to
that
you.
at the altar of
What
development.
are
Let's
you
all
going to
talk
do
about
next?
sustainable
Is this protest
development.
going to continue? If so, how? I mean, or are you going to wait till what happens in the court? Are you going to try and block the construction? What's the next step?
Vishnu sir, before beginning with what we are going to do next, let me bring 2 points very clearly to this discussion. Firstly, what they say that we have planted around so many trees. Now that's part of their CSR. That is what they have to do. Secondly, the environment minister belongs to Shiv Sena only. But Mr. Kadam is the environment minister of Maharashtra. He belongs to Shiv Sena. And this is the irony of the situation, that Shiv Sena being in the government is blocking this. Now coming to the question that what we are going to do next. Vishnu sir, we have got the permission from the Supreme Court. We are going to file a new petition. It would be a writ petition on our behalf. We are still in conversation with the various advocates who have helped us in this.
And your immediate concern is construction,
our immediate
right?
concern
you want to stay on construction as well.
Our immediate concern is construction. For the same, we are going to approach the Supreme Court tomorrow itself, that the order has created a mockery of the Supreme Court, because they have said that the status quo should be maintained, but however, this order has itself paved the path that the Mumbai Metro Corporation has issued an official notification that they would begin with the construction activities.
Okay. We're going to wrap this up today, but I'm sure we're going to follow this very, very closely in the next few days. I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us. The Supreme Court says no more cutting of trees, but there is no on construction in that Aarey area of Mumbai. We will keep tracking this.